I've unfortunately been sick and haven't had a chance to really make any content lately, but I've been excited to dive into a lot of stuff, and so we're going to just dive right back in. Marvel's Spider Man Eternals, which is actually the first Marvel set. It'll be a standard legal set. It'll be coming out later this year. We got a bit of a first look, and we're going to kind of go through it in this video, talk about a few things. I have to say, so far, based on what we've seen, I'm not feeling any type of way specifically, but that is just because I do feel like there's not a ton of info out there yet. So let's get into the video. If you guys do enjoy, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe, and then click the bell icon if you want to be notified when new videos are posted. But yeah, we're going to jump right into it. So yeah, we've got Marvel Spider Man. This is an interesting product because it is actually not going to have any commander decks associated with it, which is fine. But one of the things that I find interesting is like Final Fantasy, we're getting a lot of decks. Dragonstorm, we're getting a lot of decks. You almost have to think that a Marvel series of commander decks in any capacity would fly off the shelves, but maybe they decided to wait a bit down the road for that. It just kind of seems like where we're at. Now, this set actually releases in September, so it is quite a while away, and the Final Fantasy set will be out before this. However, it is worth noting kind of a few important details about this product. So we've got the regular SPM, which is the actual set, and then there's SPE, which is an expansion set. It is Spider-Man Eternal, and it looks like that is going to feature some reprints or some cards that maybe aren't going to be standard legal, if my understanding on that is correct. But they will be legal in any Eternal format. And then there's the Marvel MAR expansion symbol, which I'm guessing is going to be like a bonus sheet with, I don't know, maybe some cool comic style arts and stuff. We haven't really seen any previews of it yet, and I assume it'll be a while before we do. But that's just kind of what they've given us already. There is a bit of an explanation down here where they say, you know, Marvel Spider-Man is a standard legal set, and then the SPE and MAR, Commander, Legacy, etc., unless they're legal in other formats. And then, of course, play boosters will contain cards from those expansions. They're playable in draft and sealed. Nothing crazy here. That's just kind of standard with these things. But it is important to note that the few cards we do have previews for that we're going to look at today are not going to be standard legal. Now, one of the big things, which might be a topic for its own video down the road, is the MSRP is going to be a little higher for these versus regular standard sets. I don't love that, I will be honest. I think it's kind of a bad precedent to set, and I do plan on kind of delving into that a little bit more. But play boosters would be $7, collector boosters $38, which is almost $10 more, actually $12 more than the MSRP for other collector boosters. Bundles at $70, and then the scene boxes at $41.99. They did sort of confirm that all of the Universes Beyond products will carry higher pricing. I understand it from a business perspective because they have to pay licensing fees, but I don't think it sets a good precedent for buyers because it sort of makes standard more expensive on its own because, you know, if half the sets that are coming out this year for standard are Universes Beyond, that means half those sets are going to be more expensive. And if there's cards in them that are, you know, mandatory, quote unquote, to be able to actually play effectively in standard, that is not going to be something that people are going to be happy about. So we're going to talk about this a little bit in a separate video, I think, with the implications of these MSRP changes. So I won't spend too much time on it now. Pre-orders are available. I know online a lot of them have already started to sell. I don't think they've been selling out to the extent that the Final Fantasy stuff has, though. So just, you know, food for thought there. As of right now, I do feel much more excited about the Final Fantasy set than this, but it also could be that because this is so far down the road, they're waiting on hype until a little bit later. So these are some of the new cards, and we are going to look at them all in just a minute here, but I wanted to talk about the rest of it. This is sort of a full art. It's like a scene collection. All of these have the SPE set code, meaning they will not be standard legal, but they will be legal in Eternal formats. For products that are actually releasing for this set, we've got the Play Booster box. We'll have 30 Play Boosters. You do have a chance of getting that Marvel bonus card in there, but it's not guaranteed. We've got collector boosters, which not only do they look really cool, I like the design. I think Spider-Gwen is just a really popular character. It's very smart marketing to include her on the packaging here. And these will guarantee a Marvel card, which again, we don't know what they look like yet. That's what the set code is. And there will obviously be some collector booster exclusive things that we'll have a chance at getting. I think that's kind of to be expected at this point. We've got a regular bundle, which will come with an alternate art promo card, as well as 9 boosters. And then we've got the Spidey Showdown scene box, which is similar to the Lord of the Rings scene collection, if you remember those. This will come with those 6 cards we saw above, as well as 3 play boosters and an easel to display those cards on. Kind of a neat product, but it's like $41 for like 3 packs and some promos that I don't think are overwhelmingly great. So it'll be interesting to see how that performs. But a lot of that may just depend on the set itself. We've We've also got welcome decks. There are 5 of them, and these are basically going to be given out at WPN game stores for new player events. It's basically like a half deck to kind of teach you how to play, and just they're all monocolor, and it's like a good way to like mix and match and get people interested in the game. I think they know and expect that a lot of people are going to be trying the game because of Marvel being involved with it, so it makes sense to capitalize on that. And I think any resources for new players is good. While a lot of people complain about Universes Beyond, and generally I like it, I think it's a cool thing. I think it's nice to see properties that I like and care about, at least some of them, have the ability to play in Magic here. I do understand the complaints some people have, even if I disagree with them. But one thing I think we can all agree on is that more people getting into Magic is always a good thing. It's good for the game's longevity, it's good for the game's health, and it's good to have more people to be able to partake in your hobbies with. So I'm a big fan of things like this that make it a little bit more enticing for new players to be able to get into what can otherwise feel a pretty intimidating game as a whole. Now, we've got the pre-release kits, which do look kind of cool. Nothing crazy about these. It'll have the stamp card, 6 boosters, a spin down die, but there will be 5 different variations of color. Kind of neat, I suppose. And that's basically the outline of what we know about the set so far. Nothing crazy here, but again, after going through this and going through Final Fantasy, right now my level of excitement for this is relatively low. It doesn't even have like a special bundle or, gift bundle or nightmare bundle kind of thing, which is a bit weird. I mean, I know some people like the back to basics approach, and I get that, but at the same time, it's sort of like you would think for a property this big and a launch this big, they would do something a little bit more enticing, but alas, that's not what's happening here. So let me know in the comments what you guys think of this, but let's take a look at the new cards they've revealed. And again, as far as we know, these are not going to be standard legal, but that could, I guess, change if they did print these cards in the main set as well with a different set code. Maybe these are just different arts of the seed collection. I don't know. Grasping Tentacles is 1 blue-black sorcery. It says target opponent mills 8 cards. You may put an artifact card from that player's graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. Obviously not like a terrible card. It's pretty low cost. The blue-black color combination works really well with mill. It's kind of funny that it has to be an opponent who mills, because obviously if you could self-mill and then bring an artifact back, that would be really strong for 3 mana. But obviously there's going to be, some ways in this card can be really good for you if you, have the right setup. It's a sorcery, so it's not like you can play it. You can only play it on your turn. It's decent, but it's kind of reliant on your opponent having a good number of artifacts and being able to mill. Kind of chance. Sometimes milling can actually help the opponent. So I don't know. I'm honestly not overwhelmed by this card in any capacity. It's neat, but yeah. Doc Ock Evil Inventor. I do not like the artwork on this. I think it looks terrible. It's just my opinion. But I just think they didn't do him justice here. I know it's sort of comic accurate to an extent and whatnot, but I just, it's not for me. 5 blue-black legendary creature human scientist villain. At the beginning of combat on your turn, target non-creature artifact you control becomes an 8/8 robot villain artifact creature in addition to its other types. One thing that I think is interesting is that it doesn't turn back into a regular non-creature artifact after the fact. So this is kind of cool that like you could turn a treasure token into an 8/8 robot villain and then it's going to stay that way. So obviously you get some powerful stuff. But this guy costs a lot to play and has absolutely 0 built-in protection, meaning if he gets sniped by like a Swords to Plowshares or something when he comes out, you're basically just starting back from square one, and it's not like you get any crazy resources off of it. It's decent, but honestly, I'm underwhelmed across the board by this card. It's always possible that I'm missing something, and I encourage you guys to feel, let me know in the comments if there's things that I'm just clearly not seeing lines with here, but I'm not, it's not doing anything for me up to this point. We've got Green Goblin Nemesis is 2 black-red legendary creature, Goblin human villain, flying, and whenever you discard a non-land card, put a +1/+1 counter on target goblin you control. Whenever you discard a land, create a tapped treasure token. Now, first thing I thought of was a lot of the new cycling stuff that came out in Aether Drift. Obviously, there's some really good red and black stuff that cycles, and cards like I think it's Mako Marauder, probably works somewhat well in here. Obviously, goblins in general are strong, and there is another commander, another Rakdos goblin commander that exists. I definitely think you could probably find ways to make this work relatively well. You'd build it a little different than your standard goblins, but I mean, if you can consistently discard stuff, get draw back with things like Impulse Draw and whatnot, Faithful Saluting, let's say you discard 2 cards, you can then draw 2, and then you get resources off what you drew. I don't hate this card as a whole. I think it'll make a fun commander, and it does have a lot of potential. While being, it's not the most unique card ever made, but it's certainly got enough going for it that I think it's worth a look. I like this one. I do. I think it'll be kind of fun to see what decks people come up with as a result. Now, Green Goblin also has Pumpkin Bombs. It's 1 and a red artifact. You can tap, discard 2 cards, draw 3 cards, then put a fuse counter on this artifact. It deals damage equal to the number of fuse counters on it to target opponent, then they gain control of this artifact. So it's kind of funny that it like passes around, but right off the bat, it triggers your Green Goblin by letting you discard 2, then you draw up 3, so you're not losing a lot in hand advantage, and you can also then trigger to put counters on your goblins and also to create treasure tokens. Not to mention the Green Goblin can put counters on himself, so that's cool too, even if you don't have any other goblins on the board. Like if you're just building a discard outlet to buff him up and swing for commander damage, certainly not the worst way to play him. But overall, these 2 cards are pretty solid and kind of interchangeably with one another, and I like them. So they're a big step up from the other 2, in my opinion. We got Venom, Deadly Devourer, which is 2 green-black legendary creature symbiote villain with vigilance and menace. You can pay 3, exile target creature card from a graveyard. When you do, put X +1/+1 counters on target symbiote, where X is the exiled card's toughness. So graveyard disruption, obviously right now this is the only symbiote, but there may well be more. I would be surprised if there wasn't actually. So certainly could work as a commander, but also just in general, like Vigilance, Menace, can buff himself up and get rid of problematic cards in the opponent's graveyard. Not terrible across the board. And he's low enough cost where if you're somebody who's like, I want to play Spider-Man stuff, this gives you a decent opportunity to do so without it being, you know, the craziest. Is it the best Golgari commander I've ever seen? No, but it does work well. And depending on the other symbiotes that we get, there's definitely some ways to maybe make this work in your favor, especially if you play a couple like defender type creatures that have a really high toughness where you're like, all right, I'll exile my own card and put a shit ton of counters on my creature. It looks like it can be pretty powerful. And with Vigilance and Menace, it's not exactly the easiest to block, but it doesn't really have any protection from, you know, disruption removal spells either. So kind of a double-edged sword, if you will. Sensational Spider Man is 1 white-blue legendary creature spider-human hero. Why is it white-blue instead of red? I don't know. Good question. Not sure. Let me know if you figure it out. Whenever Sensational Spider Man attacks, tap target creature defending player controls and put a stun counter on it. Then you may remove up to 3 stun counters from all permanents. Draw cards equal to the number of stun counters removed this way. Very interesting. I like the stun counter with the web tie-up thing. That's a cute little interaction. Azorius is just an interesting color combination for this, but I guess I kind of get it. There's a lot of solid cards, especially in blue, that do put stun counters on stuff and give you some resources as a result of that. But a lot of times with stun counters, you want to like put them on things and then proliferate to keep them tapped. And this is kind of like, well, we're going to take the stun counters off. I don't think it's bad, though, I have to say. I think it definitely has some potential. I haven't had a chance to really dig too much into the stun counter cards that we currently have to choose from to see if there's really ways to make this work. But in general, like attacking, stunning something, getting a draw, not bad. And he's low enough cost that it's really kind of easy enough to make that work. I hope it's not the only Spider-Man we get, because it'd be cool to get a Spider-Man that feels a little bit more true to some other elements of the character, but I think it's decent enough as a whole. But that's to say, on these 6 cards here, right, and ultimately just going through the set, right now, as it currently stands, I'm not all that excited for the set because of the reveals. I'm excited for the set because I like Spider-Man and I like Marvel and I want to see what it looks like, and I will absolutely buy some of the set when it comes out. But in terms of my hype right now for things coming out this year, as someone who not only makes content, but gets very excited about new products because I just like the, you know, covering stuff, seeing new stuff, figuring out interactions, there's always something fun to look at. This does nothing to increase my level of hype. I'm still at the same level that I was when, when this first started. So that could very well change, and most likely will if they give us some good stuff going forward. But right now, I'm kind of baseline on this, and I'm definitely more excited about some other products coming out this year. There's still plenty of time between now and then, so we'll kind of see how everything shakes out. That's going to do it for this video. You guys let me know in the comment section down below how you feel about the set so far, and if you're more excited about other stuff, or if you're, maybe I'm just being a little bit too harsh, which generally I try not to do, but I'm just being kind of honest here in my level of meh for everything we've seen so far. I'll catch you guys in the next video.